The small cafe sat on the corner of a busy street, hidden between tall glass buildings that looked down like giants. It was not a fancy place. The chairs were simple, the tables had scratches, and the walls carried the smell of fresh bread and coffee. But people loved it because it felt warm, safe, and homely. Every morning, workers from nearby offices came in for tea, parents brought children for breakfast, and old friends met there to talk. Among the staff working in the cafe was Maria, a young waitress who always carried a smile. She had been working there for almost 3 years. Every customer who came in noticed her calm way of serving. She did not hurry, she did not get annoyed, and even when the cafe was full and noisy, she stayed gentle. She would say, "Good morning," with a soft voice, and it felt like she truly meant it. Maria's life outside the cafe was not easy. She lived in a small apartment with her younger brother, Sammy, and their sick mother. Their father had passed away years ago, and Maria had taken the role of the caretaker. She woke up early, cooked breakfast for her family, and then rushed to the cafe. Her earnings were not much, but every coin mattered. She always told Sammy, "Study well. Your books are our future." Sammy believed her, and he tried hard in school. On that day, Maria tied her hair back neatly, put on her simple uniform, and walked to the cafe. The sky was cloudy, and the city felt restless. People hurried down the street, holding umbrellas though it was not raining yet. Maria reached the cafe, tied her apron, and started her shift. She cleaned tables, arranged cups, and checked the menu board. At around 9 in the morning, a man entered the cafe. He looked different from the usual crowd. He wore a simple suit, but it was clear from his shoes, his watch, and the way he carried himself that he was not an ordinary customer. His name was Omar, a millionaire businessman who usually never stepped into small cafes. He liked quiet, private restaurants where no one stared at him. But today, traffic had stopped his car near the street, and while waiting, he decided to step inside for a cup of coffee. Omar sat by the window, placing his phone on the table. He looked around and noticed the simple charm of the place. The smell of baked bread reminded him of his childhood. For a moment, he felt relaxed, something rare in his busy life. Maria walked up to his table with her usual smile. "Good morning, sir. What would you like to have today?" Omar looked at her and paused. She did not seem nervous to serve him, nor did she try to please him extra just because of how he looked. She treated him like she treated everyone else. "A black coffee, please," he replied. "Of course," Maria said with a nod and went back to the counter. As she walked away, Omar kept watching. He noticed how she spoke to the old man at the corner table, making sure his tea was not too hot because she remembered his teeth were weak. He noticed how she smiled at the little boy dropping crumbs, telling his mother not to worry. She even comforted a young woman who looked tired, placing a plate of bread before her and saying softly, "Eat slowly, you'll feel better." There was nothing grand in these actions, yet Omar found them rare. In his world, he mostly met people who only wanted to impress, flatter, or compete. But here was a girl who seemed content just by helping others. Maria returned with his coffee. "Here you go. Careful, it's hot." Omar nodded, thanking her. He took a sip, and though it was just simple coffee, it tasted different. Maybe it was the way she served it with care, not with duty. As he sat quietly, watching the busy street outside, Omar wondered about the young waitress. Who was she? What life did she live? Why did her calmness feel stronger than the rush of the world outside? For Maria, it was just another morning. She did not know that one of her customers was a man whose name filled newspapers. She did not know her smallest acts were being noticed carefully. She was only focused on her work, thinking about the money she needed to buy medicine for her mother later that evening. The cafe was getting busier. Maria kept moving from table to table without losing her smile. Some customers joked with her, some asked for quick service, and some complained about little things. Maria answered everyone with patience. To her, every customer mattered the same. Omar finished his coffee but did not leave. Something inside him told him to stay longer. He looked at Maria again, watching how she worked. There was something unshaken about her. She was like a calm wave in a noisy sea. He did not know then that this ordinary day would soon turn into something unforgettable for both of them. Because life has a way of testing calmness, and Maria's true strength was about to be revealed in a way that would touch not only Omar's heart but also the hearts of millions who would hear her story later. The cafe was full that morning. The sound of clinking cups, soft chatter, and the smell of warm bread made it feel safe and ordinary. Maria moved quickly between tables, carrying trays with steady hands. Omar sat by the window, still observing her while sipping his second cup of coffee. He told himself he would leave soon, but something kept him seated. Then it happened. The door of the cafe burst open. Two men rushed inside. Their faces were half covered with scarves, and their movements were sharp. At once, the warm air of the cafe turned cold. A woman gasped, a child started crying, and chairs scraped the floor as customers moved back in fear. The taller man shouted, "Give us the money from the counter." His voice shook the room like thunder. The cashier froze, his hands trembling. For a moment, everything seemed broken. The safe little cafe no longer felt safe. Customers huddled together, whispering prayers. Omar felt his chest tighten. He had seen fear in business, but this kind of raw panic was different. He was just another man in that moment, unsure of what to do. But in the middle of the storm, one person did not lose control. Maria. She was standing near the counter, holding a tray. For a heartbeat, she looked at the frightened faces around her, the crying child, the cashier's shaking hands, the elderly man who seemed too weak to even move. Then, without hesitation, she set the tray down. Her face did not show panic. She took a gentle step forward. "Please," she said softly, her voice calm but clear, "take this and leave." Everyone turned toward her. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out her own small wallet. Inside was only a little money, but she placed it on the counter with steady hands. "You don't need to hurt anyone," she continued in the same calm tone. "Here is what I have. Take it and go quickly." The taller man looked at her, surprised. He had expected screams, tears, maybe even someone trying to fight. But here was a young waitress, speaking like the storm didn't touch her. Her quiet courage made his anger pause for just a second. The second man grabbed the money from her wallet along with what the cashier had managed to hand over. The whole scene lasted less than 2 minutes, but for everyone inside, it felt much longer. Before leaving, the taller man glanced back at Maria. Her eyes did not challenge him, nor did they beg. They were simply steady, almost peaceful. Something about that unsettled him. He turned and rushed out with his partner. The door closed. Silence fell. It was the kind of silence that comes after a heavy storm, the kind that makes people wonder if what they just saw was real. A child whimpered. An old woman began to cry softly. And then, one by one, customers looked at Maria. She exhaled slowly, as if she had been holding her breath all along. Her hands were steady, her eyes calm. "It's over," she said gently. "Everyone is safe. That is what matters." The cashier stared at her. How did you stay so calm?" Maria gave a small smile. "Sometimes fear grows bigger when you show it. I only wanted to make sure the children didn't get more scared." Omar had not moved the entire time. His eyes were fixed on her, his heart heavy with surprise. He had seen businessmen crumble under less pressure. He had seen people with power lose control when things went wrong. But this girl, this simple waitress, had stood like a quiet mountain when everyone else shook. The cafe slowly returned to life. Customers whispered, some praising Maria, others still shaken. The police were called, and officers arrived to take statements. Yet, even while telling them what happened, Maria's voice remained steady. When everything settled, Omar finally stood. He walked slowly to the counter where Maria was helping the cashier calm down. "Are you all right?" he asked. She looked at him, surprised that he spoke. "Yes, sir. Thank you for asking. Everyone is safe. That is all I hoped for." Her words stayed with him. Everyone is safe. Not once had she mentioned herself. Not once had she spoken of fear or loss. Her whole thought was for others. Omar returned to his table, his mind full. He had come in for a simple cup of coffee, but he had found something else, a story his heart could not ignore. As Maria cleared the tables and comforted customers, Omar kept watching. He felt something stirring inside him. Admiration, yes, but also a deep question: what kind of strength lives in someone like her? He knew this was not the end. Somehow, he felt that this small cafe and this young waitress would change more than just one morning. And he was right. Because while the robbery ended in silence, the memory of Maria's calmness was only beginning its journey. The cafe slowly returned to its ordinary rhythm after the robbery. Chairs were pushed back to their places, cups were collected, and customers began to leave with nervous laughter, still shaken but grateful nothing worse had happened. The morning light filtered through the windows again, but it felt different now, as if the cafe itself had witnessed something it would never forget. Maria, however, did not allow herself to pause for long. She went from table to table, speaking kindly to the regular customers who were still frightened. To the mother holding a child, she said, "You were very brave to stay calm for your little one." To the old man at the corner, she smiled and brought him a glass of water, telling him gently, "It's all right now. Please don't worry." Everyone noticed the way she carried herself. She was not just a waitress anymore, she was the reason no one had lost control. Omar sat quietly, his coffee long finished, but his mind full. He had seen something extraordinary. The image of Maria standing calmly before two frightened men would not leave him. He wondered how she had found such courage. Was it natural? Was it learned through hardship? When the police left and the cafe grew calmer, Omar finally stood and walked to the counter. Maria was wiping a cup, her hands steady as ever. She looked up and greeted him with her usual polite smile. "Thank you for checking earlier, sir," she said softly. "I hope you are not too shaken." Omar shook his head. "I should be the one thanking you. I don't think I've ever seen someone so calm in such a moment." Maria lowered her eyes, almost embarrassed. "I only did what I could. Fear spreads fast. I didn't want the children to cry more." Her words touched Omar again. She did not think of herself, only of others. He wanted to know more. Something inside him told him this young woman's story went far beyond serving tables in a small cafe. "Do you live nearby?" Omar asked carefully, not wanting to sound intrusive. Maria nodded. "Yes, a few streets away. My younger brother and mother are waiting for me at home. They will be worried if they hear about this." She sighed lightly, but then smiled. "I will tell them everything is fine. That's what matters." Her words revealed more than she realized. Omar caught the small crack in her voice when she spoke of her mother. He understood that her calmness came not from ease but from responsibility. Life had tested her long before this morning. He did not ask more. Instead, he left a generous tip on the counter. Maria looked at it, surprised. "Sir, this is too much, consider it a thank you," Omar said gently. Then he walked out, but his thoughts stayed inside the cafe with her. That evening, Maria returned home after her shift. The small apartment smelled of simple food. Her younger brother, Sammy, was waiting with his school books open. Their mother lay resting on the bed, her breathing weak but calm. Sammy looked up. "Maria, you're late. Did something happen?" Maria placed her bag down and smiled softly. "There was some trouble at the cafe, but everything is fine now. Nothing to worry about." She brushed his hair back and told him to focus on his studies. She did not want to fill the small home with fear. Later, as she helped her mother take her medicine, Maria sat by the bedside. Her mother studied her face. "You look tired, child. But your eyes, they look strong. What happened today?" Maria held her mother's hand. "Just a difficult moment, Mama. But I stayed calm, and everyone was safe." Her mother smiled faintly. "That is your gift, Maria. Some people shout when the storm comes, but you stay still like the ground beneath our feet. That strength will take you far." Maria listened quietly. She did not think of herself as strong. She only thought of her duty to keep her family safe, to keep her brother studying, and to make sure their home never lost its light. Meanwhile, Omar sat in his large office that night, unable to forget her words. He thought of the countless meetings he had attended, the boardrooms filled with powerful men who lost their tempers over numbers and contracts. Yet here was a young woman, with little money and no power, who had stayed calm when true danger stood before her. He opened his laptop and began to type. He wrote about what he had seen that morning, not giving Maria's name, but describing her courage. "I saw a young waitress today," his post began, "who stood calm when everyone else was afraid. She gave away her own money to protect strangers. She reminded me that true strength is not measured in wealth or power, but in the heart that stays steady when fear tries to rule." He posted it on his social media, not expecting much. But by morning, his words would spread far and wide, reaching people he did not even know. Maria, unaware of this, lay in her small bed, holding her mother's hand as she fell asleep. She thought of the day's events and prayed only for tomorrow to be quiet and safe. She did not know that her quiet strength was about to be seen by the world. The next morning began like any other for Maria. She woke early, prepared breakfast for her brother, and helped her mother take her medicine. Sammy complained lightly about his homework, and Maria laughed, reminding him that his studies were their biggest treasure. Then, tying her apron neatly, she hurried back to the cafe for another long day of work. For her, the robbery was now in the past. She carried no pride in what she had done. To her, it was only natural to stay calm for the sake of others. She did not know that her simple act of courage had already started a ripple far beyond the cafe's walls. In his office across the city, Omar sat behind his large desk. His phone kept buzzing. Messages poured in, notifications blinking non-stop. His late-night post about the brave waitress had spread faster than he expected. People had shared it thousands of times. Some wrote comments like, "This is the kind of story we need today." Others said, "True heroes are among us, silent and unseen." Omar read every comment with quiet wonder. He had written many things before about business, about success, but never had one of his words touched people like this. Something about Maria's calmness had captured hearts. By midday, news reporters began picking up the story. They called it, "The Calm Waitress Who Faced Fear Without Fear." They didn't know her name, but they wanted to find her. At the cafe, Maria noticed new faces. Customers came in not just for coffee, but to ask questions. A young woman at one table whispered to her friend, "Do you think it's her? She looks like the one in the story." Another man nodded toward Maria, murmuring, "It must be her. Look how gentle she is." Maria blinked in surprise. She could feel eyes following her, but she did not understand why. Later that afternoon, the cafe owner approached her with wide eyes. "Maria, do you know what's happening?" The story of the robbery, it's everywhere online. People are talking about a brave waitress, and I think they mean you. Maria frowned lightly. Me? But I didn't do anything special. I only spoke calmly. The owner smiled and shook his head. That's exactly what people find special. Maria felt a mix of confusion and unease. She had never wanted attention. All she wanted was to work quietly, earn enough for her family, and keep their small world steady. Fame was not something she could even imagine. But the world had already decided. By evening, a journalist came into the cafe with a camera. He politely asked Maria if she would answer a few questions. She hesitated, her hands nervously twisting the cloth of her apron. I don't know what to say, she whispered. The journalist smiled kindly. Just tell the truth. People only want to hear how you stayed calm. With gentle words, Maria explained what she had felt that morning. I thought of the children first. They were crying, and I wanted to make them quiet. I thought if I gave away my own money, maybe the men would go quickly. That's all. Nothing more. Her voice was soft, but it carried far. When the interview aired that night, people across the city listened. Many were touched. Some cried. Some wrote online, "She reminds me of my mother," or "The world still has kind souls." Meanwhile, Omar watched from his quiet home. He felt both proud and thoughtful. He had started this wave by writing about her, but he also knew her life would change now. He wondered if she was ready for it. The next day, the cafe was busier than ever. Customers lined up not just for food, but to see Maria. Some wanted to thank her. Others wanted to shake her hand. A few even left envelopes with donations, saying softly, "For your family." Maria was overwhelmed. She kept telling people, "Please, I don't need gifts. I only need prayers." But still, the kindness continued to pour in. At home, Sammy's eyes shone as he showed her messages on his phone. "Maria, look. Everyone is talking about you. They say you're a hero." Maria shook her head, smiling gently. "I am not a hero, Sammy. I only stayed calm. Real heroes are the ones who keep moving forward even when no one sees." Her mother, listening from the bed, smiled with quiet pride. "Child, sometimes the world needs to see one act of courage to remember its own strength. Do not be afraid of this light. Walk in it." Those words stayed with Maria. She did not fully understand them yet, but she felt they were true. Omar, on the other hand, felt a decision forming inside him. Watching Maria's story unfold in public, he realized that this was not just about one brave act. It was about a person who carried strength quietly every day, without reward. He could not simply sit back and watch. That night, he thought long and hard. He told himself, "I must do more than write about her. She deserves more than passing fame. She deserves a chance for a better life." And so, Omar prepared for his next step, a step that would soon bring him back to the cafe, face to face with the waitress whose calmness had moved the world. The cafe had never been so crowded. People who had never visited before now came in just to see the young waitress they had read about online. The chairs filled quickly each morning, and lines formed at the counter. Some customers ordered food, but many only wanted to shake Maria's hand or thank her quietly for what she had done. Maria, as always, stayed the same. She tied her apron, smiled, and served each customer with her usual calmness. If someone praised her, she only nodded humbly and said, "I only did what anyone would have done." But deep inside, she wondered why her simple act had touched so many hearts. Her brother Sammy could hardly contain his excitement. Each evening, he rushed to show her the newest articles and messages on his phone. "Look, Maria. This newspaper wrote about you. And this one says you're the reason people believe in kindness again." Maria would laugh softly, shaking her head. People make the story bigger than it is. I only stayed calm for a few minutes. Her mother, however, listened quietly. From her bed, she often told Maria, "Do not run away from this light, child. Sometimes God chooses ordinary people to remind the world of extraordinary values. If people see strength in you, accept it with humility." One afternoon, a group of students visited the cafe. They waited until Maria had a free moment, then one girl stepped forward shyly. "We came because your story inspired us. Our teacher showed us the video of your interview. We want to be brave like you." Maria's eyes softened. She knelt a little so she could look at the girl directly. "Bravery is not about standing in front of danger," she said gently. "It is about staying calm and thinking of others before yourself. You can practice it every day by being kind, by listening, by helping your friends. That is where courage begins." The students smiled, and one by one, they thanked her. Maria watched them leave with light hearts, and she realized that her actions had already traveled further than she could imagine. But while Maria tried to continue her normal life, Omar was watching closely from a distance. His post had been the spark, but now the fire had grown on its own. News channels repeated her story, and people from different cities wrote letters to the cafe, asking to meet her. Some even sent donations to help her family, though Maria never asked for anything. Omar read each update carefully. He admired how Maria handled the sudden attention. Most people would have let pride grow inside them, but she stayed simple, never allowing the praise to change her heart. This only confirmed what he already felt: Maria was special. One evening, Omar returned to the cafe quietly. He sat in the same seat by the window where he had first seen her. The cafe was busy, but Maria noticed him and came with her gentle smile. "Good evening, sir. Will you have coffee again?" she asked. Omar nodded. "Yes, please. The same as last time." When she left to bring his order, Omar watched her carefully. He noticed how she moved from table to table with patience, how she never rushed, and how she still made each customer feel cared for, even though she was now known everywhere. Fame had not shaken her balance. When she returned with the coffee, Omar decided to speak. "Maria," he said softly, "do you realize how many people you have touched with your calmness?" Maria shook her head. "I don't think about it much. I only think of serving tea, coffee, and food every day. People's praise feels bigger than my actions." "That humility," Omar replied, "is the very reason they admire you. The world is hungry for such examples." Maria gave a small smile but did not reply. She had work to do, and she went to attend other customers. That night, after finishing her shift, Maria walked home through the quiet streets with Sammy by her side. He chattered happily about school, about how his classmates were proud to know his sister was on the news. Maria listened, nodding, though her thoughts were heavy. She wondered if this sudden attention would fade quickly or if it would follow her forever. She wondered if it would bring help or only more pressure. At home, their mother sat up with a warm smile. "I heard you were on television again today," she said softly. Maria sat beside her and took her hand. "Yes, Mama, but I do not want too much noise. I want peace for us." Her mother looked into her eyes. "Peace is not always the absence of noise. Sometimes, peace is carrying the light people place in your hands and using it to guide others. Maybe this is your path, Maria. Maybe this is how you will bring a better future for your brother, and for yourself." Maria did not answer right away. She thought of the little girl at the cafe who wanted to be brave. She thought of the strangers leaving small envelopes with donations. And she thought of Omar, the quiet man who kept appearing at the cafe, looking at her as if he saw something she herself could not. Perhaps her mother was right. Perhaps this attention was not just noise, it was a chance. And far away, In his own quiet home, Omar was making a promise to himself. The world might be praising Maria today, but he knew attention fades quickly. He wanted to give her something more lasting. Something that could truly change her life. He was preparing to take the next step. The cafe had grown busier with each passing day, yet Maria stayed the same. She greeted customers with her soft smile, carried trays with patience, and spoke to everyone as if they truly mattered. Fame had touched her life, but it had not touched her heart. Still, the attention was heavy. Some nights she lay awake, wondering how long this would last. Would people forget her story tomorrow? Would the cafe return to its quiet rhythm? She hoped so, because her life outside these walls was still the same. Her mother needed medicine, her brother needed books, and the rent still waited at the end of the month. But change was already on its way. One afternoon, as the cafe bustled with customers, Omar entered once again. He chose the same seat by the window, as if it now belonged to him. Maria noticed him immediately and walked over with her usual calmness. "Good afternoon, sir," she said. "The same coffee today?" "Yes," Omar replied, smiling. "But this time, I would also like to talk with you for a while, if you have a moment." Maria looked surprised but nodded politely. "I'll bring your coffee first." When she returned and placed the cup before him, Omar gestured to the chair opposite. "Please sit for a few minutes. I promise I will not keep you long." Maria hesitated. She was not used to sitting with customers, but something about his tone was gentle. She glanced at the other tables. Everything seemed under control, so she slowly sat down. Omar studied her for a moment. "Maria, do you know why I first wrote about you?" She shook her head. "No, sir. I only know that your words changed everything around me." "I wrote," Omar continued, "because I saw something rare in you. When everyone else panicked, you stayed calm. That calmness was not just bravery, it was strength, the kind that comes from love and responsibility. It moved me, and it has now moved millions of people." Maria lowered her eyes, embarrassed. "I only did what I had to. I cannot accept so much praise." "That humility," Omar said softly, "is exactly why I believe you deserve more. Maria, I do not think your story should end here, serving tables in this cafe. I want to help you build a better life for yourself and your family." Maria looked up, startled. "Help me? How?" Omar leaned forward. "First, I would like to support your brother's studies. Education is a treasure, and he deserves the best chance. Second, I want to cover your mother's medical care so that you do not have to worry about her treatment. And finally, I want to offer you a new role managing one of my upcoming restaurants. You have the heart and the calmness of a true leader. I believe you can do it." For a long moment, Maria could not speak. Her lips parted, but no words came. She felt as though the air had grown heavy around her. "Sir," she finally whispered, "this is too much. I cannot accept so much from you. I do not want charity." Omar shook his head firmly. "This is not charity. This is an investment in someone who has already shown great strength. The world does not need more business plans or more money, it needs people like you, who can remind others of kindness even in the hardest moments." Maria's eyes filled with quiet tears. She quickly blinked them away, not wanting to show weakness. "But what if I fail? What if I cannot manage such responsibility?" Omar's voice was calm. "You have already managed greater responsibilities, Maria. You kept peace in a room full of fear. You carry your family with steady hands. Managing a restaurant is only a different form of leadership. I will guide you in the beginning, but I trust you more than you trust yourself." Maria sat in silence. She thought of her brother, bent over his school books, wishing for opportunities beyond their small apartment. She thought of her mother, who often tried to hide her pain to avoid being a burden. and she thought of the endless hours she had spent carrying trays, earning just enough to survive. This offer could change everything. Yet part of her heart trembled with doubt. Could she really step into such a big world? Finally, she looked at Omar with steady eyes. If I accept, it will not be for myself. It will be for my brother and my mother. They deserve this chance more than I do. A smile spread across Omar's face. That answer, he said, is exactly why I know you will succeed. Maria nodded slowly. Her heart was still unsure, but a new seed of hope had been planted inside her. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where her family lived with comfort, where her brother studied without worry, and where her mother healed in peace. As she stood to return to work, Omar said gently, "Think about it, Maria. I am not asking for an answer today. But remember, strength should not only carry burdens, it should also carry dreams." Maria carried those words with her through the rest of the day. That night, as she sat beside her mother's bed and told her about Omar's offer, her mother smiled with tears in her eyes. "Take this chance, my child," she whispered. "Not every day does life open such a door. Walk through it, and take us with you." Maria held her mother's hand tightly. Deep inside, she knew a turning point had come. The following week, Maria felt as if she were living in two worlds. One was the old life, the cafe, the trays, the endless hours of work. The other was a new world that waited just beyond her reach, a world where dreams could finally grow. Every day, Omar's words returned to her mind: strength should not only carry burdens, it should also carry dreams. One evening, after finishing her shift, Maria sat by her mother's bedside. Her brother, Daniel, was reading his school book beside them. The small lamp filled the room with a soft glow. "Mother," Maria said gently, "I have thought about the offer. I am afraid, but maybe it is time to accept. I want Daniel to study without worry, and I want you to have the treatment you need. I cannot let fear stop me." Her mother took her hand and squeezed it warmly. "My child, life has tested you many times. But this is not a test, it is a gift. Accept it with faith. We will walk this new road together." Daniel looked up from his book, his eyes shining with excitement. "Does this mean I can go to a better school, Maria? One with a library and computers?" Maria smiled, tears rising in her eyes. "Yes, Daniel. It means you will have everything you need." For the first time in years, hope filled their small home. The next day, Maria returned to the cafe, her heart steady. When Omar arrived and settled by the window, she walked to him with quiet confidence. "I have thought about your offer," she said. "And I would like to accept. Not for myself, but for my family. I will try my best." Omar's face lit with approval. "That is all I ask, Maria. To try your best. The rest will come naturally." From that day, everything began to change. Omar introduced Maria to his team and showed her plans for a new restaurant he was opening in the city. The place was bright, filled with space for laughter and light, and Omar explained that he wanted it to be more than just a restaurant. He wanted it to be a place of comfort, where kindness and calmness lived in every corner. "You will manage it," Omar said. "Your calm spirit will guide the people who work here, just as it guided the cafe that day." At first, Maria felt small among the shining tables and tall windows, but Omar was patient. He taught her how to lead staff, how to welcome customers, how to balance the books. And every time she doubted herself, he reminded her of the moment when she had stayed strong during the robbery. "You already carry leadership inside you," he would say. "This is only a new stage for it." Slowly, Maria began to believe him. Weeks turned into months, and the restaurant opened its doors. On the first day, Maria stood at the entrance, her heart trembling. But when the first family entered, she greeted them with her natural warmth, and soon the place was filled with happy voices. Word spread quickly. Customers loved not just the food but the peaceful feeling Maria created. Staff respected her because she treated them with fairness, never raising her voice, always guiding with patience. Her brother, Daniel, started attending a new school with modern classrooms. He often came home excited, telling Maria about the books he read and the projects he worked on. Her mother's health improved with regular treatment, and she spent her days smiling more than ever before. At night, when Maria returned home, she often sat quietly, thinking of how different life had become. The struggles were not forgotten, but now they were joined by hope. One evening, Omar visited the restaurant. He watched as Maria moved from table to table, greeting customers with ease, guiding her staff with calmness, and ensuring everything ran smoothly. When she finally joined him at a corner table, he said with pride, "You see, Maria. You were never meant to stay hidden in the shadows. You were meant to shine, and now you do." Maria's eyes softened. "I could not have done this without you, sir. You opened the door for me." Omar shook his head. "No, Maria. You opened it yourself, by staying true to your heart that day. All I did was notice." His words touched her deeply. She realized then that her story had become more than a single event. It was a reminder to others that kindness, strength, and calmness could change not only one life, but many. Months later, a reporter visited the restaurant to write a follow-up story about Maria. She asked, "Maria, what is the biggest lesson you have learned from this journey?" Maria smiled gently. "That even in the hardest times, we must stay calm and kind. You never know who is watching, or how your actions may inspire them. And sometimes, life surprises you with doors you never dreamed would open." The article spread online, and once again, Maria's story went viral. But this time, she was not just a waitress who stayed calm during a robbery. She was a manager, a daughter, a sister, and a symbol of quiet strength. At home, Daniel hugged her one evening and whispered, "Maria, you are my hero." Her mother, sitting nearby, added softly, "And mine too." Maria's heart filled with gratitude. She knew her journey was far from over, but for the first time, she was not afraid of what lay ahead. She had carried burdens for so long. Now, at last, she was carrying dreams. And as she stood at the doorway of the restaurant that evening, watching the sunset paint the sky, Maria whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning."